All right, today we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most powerful and, often really misunderstood parts of the entire Linux operating system. We're talking about its configuration files.
I mean, you've seen it in the movies, right? That mysterious hacker just hammering away at cryptic commands on a black screen, manipulating the system with what looks like godlike power. It creates this really intimidating image, this idea that Linux is only for, the L33 hacksaws.
But what if I told you that the real secret to all that power isn't some complex, unknowable magic? What if it's actually just a bunch of simple text files? Something totally transparent and accessible to pretty much anyone who's willing to take a peek. Okay, so that's exactly what we're going to explore today. We are diving right into the secret heart of Linux to figure out what these configuration files really are and why they're the key to making the whole system so unbelievably flexible. So when you get right down to it, a configuration file is, well, it's just a recipe. Seriously, it's a simple, plain text file that tells a program, or maybe even the whole operating system, how to act. It's just a list of instructions like, hey, use this setting, or connect to this network, or make sure you start this service when the computer boots up. There's no complex code. It's just straightforward text.
Now, this approach is completely different from how, say, Windows handles things. You see, Windows shoves all its settings into this one giant, complex database called the registry. But Linux follows this core principle from the old Unix philosophy, and one of the mottos is, everything is a file. And that's huge. It means you can just read your settings, edit them with super basic tools, and even copy them over to a whole new machine. Easy peasy.
Okay, so if the whole system is run by all these different text files, you're probably wondering, where the heck are they? It might sound a little chaotic at first, but trust me, there's a very logical structure to it all. So let's pull out the map and take a look.
It really just boils down to two main locations, two main types of configuration. You've got your global settings, which apply to the entire system for every single user. And then you have user-specific settings, which, you guessed it, only apply to your account. This separation is absolutely key to how Linux lets you customize everything. So these two categories live in two main neighborhoods on your system. First, the global system-wide settings. You're almost always going to find those in the /etc directory. Think of that as like City Hall. Then you have your personal settings. Those live in your home directory, the folder you see as $home or that little tilde symbol tilde, and a lot of times they're hidden files. But here's the most important part. Your personal settings always win. They override the global ones, but only for you. And here's a fantastic way to think about it. The global stuff in etc/, that's like the master thermostat for the entire apartment building. It sets a baseline temperature for everybody. But the config files in your home directory, well, that's your personal space heater. It lets you make your own apartment warmer or cooler, and it doesn't affect anyone else in the building. Simple, right? All right, so now we know what these files are and where to find them. The next logical question is, how do we work with them? What's in the toolkit? Well, it turns out you only need a couple of really simple commands to get started. So for just viewing a file, your two best friends are going to be cat and less. Cat is awesome for short files. You just type cat and the file name, and boom, it dumps the entire thing to your screen. But if you try that on a huge log file, it's just going to fly by, a total mess. That's where less is a lifesaver. It's what we call a pager, and it lets you scroll through the file one screen at a time. Way more manageable. Now, when it's time to actually edit a file, you'll run into one of the great classic debates in the tech world, Nano versus Vim. Think of Nano as the super friendly one. It's simple, the commands are always listed right there at the bottom of the screen, it's perfect for beginners. Then you have Vim. Vim is the powerful, efficient programmer's editor. It has this steep learning curve because of its different modes, but once you get it, man, it's unbelievably fast. For today, though, we're going to stick with our friendly guide, Nano. Okay, theory is great and all, but I think it's time to get our hands dirty. Let's do a real-world example. We're going to make a super simple, totally safe edit to a global configuration file called /etc/hosts. This is the file that maps host names to IP addresses on your local machine. But before we touch anything, and I really cannot stress this enough, the absolute number one rule of editing system files is always make a backup. We'll just use the simple cp command to make a copy. See? cp/etc/hosts/etc/hosts.back. That way, if we mess something up, no big deal, we can just restore our backup. Seriously, don't skip this step. The whole process here is going to be incredibly simple. It's really just 3 steps. Step 1, open the file. Step 2, add our line. And step 3, save and get out of there.
All right, first up, we open the file. Now, remember how we said @c/hosts is a global file? That means we need special permission to edit it. We get that permission by using the command sudo, which stands for super user do. We just put it right before our normal command, like this, sudo nano @c/hosts. That gives us the temporary superpowers we need for just this one task.
Step 2, let's add our line. Just use your arrow keys to go all the way to the bottom of the file and type this in, 127.0.0.1 mytestsite.local. So what does this do? It's basically telling our computer, hey, from now on, whenever I try to go to mytestsite.local in my web browser, don't even bother looking on the internet, just point it right back to my own machine. This is a super common trick for web developers.
And finally, step 3, we save and exit. Now in Nano, you just follow the little menu at the bottom. That little crown symbol means the control key. So press Ctrl+O to write out. That's Nano's way of saying save. It'll ask you to confirm the file name. Just hit enter. Then press Ctrl+X to exit. And that's it. You did it. You just safely edited your first Linux configuration file. See? Not so scary.
You see, when you learn to work with these simple text files, you're doing way more than just changing a few settings. You are literally editing the personality of your operating system. You're shaping it, tailoring it to work exactly the way you want it to. Linux hands you the source code to its own personality. So the only real question left is,